Hey everyone, it's Luke here from LT Gaming and welcome back to all of you LT gamers. Today is a very exciting day. I'm going to do a what to expect on Star Trek Infinite, the new Star Trek strategy game coming from Paradox Interactive on the 12th of October. And yes, also, I cannot believe that it's that soon. I have to say, the turnaround on this game since it was announced has been extremely quick. I wasn't expecting it to come out on the 12th of October. So next week I'm actually travelling and I'm hoping that it works on Steam Deck because I'm going to take that with me just to experience the game. After doing some digging on the Steam forums and on Discord, it does seem the game will work on Steam Deck just as Stellaris does, but it will be vital that you're able to scale the UI. I will definitely download Stellaris onto my Steam Deck for next week so I can do a direct comparison. But anyway, setting that aside, it's very exciting to have a Star Trek strategy game coming to us in 2023. Of course, on this channel we're huge proponents of Bridge Commander and a lot of other style Star Trek action games, but we also play Armada, which was a top-down RTS. One of the games which is of course directly comparable to this is Birth of the Federation, and I put that in my S tier when I ranked all of the Star Trek games that I've ever played. I did notice when IGN did their Star Trek Infinite preview that they didn't mention some of these legacy games like Birth of the Federation, which makes me wonder if their journalists have a Star Trek gaming pedigree. But hey, look, that's another discussion for another day. One thing that has really encouraged me is that in their devlog number 1, the developers have put out that they want to capture the feeling of Star Trek strategy games of the early 2000s. They talk about a mix of Star Trek ships and playing on big maps and fighting all of the other empires for supremacy. And directly below that, they mention Birth of the Federation and Armada. Now, they do state that they don't just want to make a direct remake of those titles, but it's great that they want to recapture that feeling. It's the Star Trek games that many of us remember from our youth. And when I recently took part in a Star Trek gaming podcast on the future of Star Trek games, these were the titles that came up again and again in the discussion. So the fact that they want to develop a modern take on these classics is awesome. However, the next thing they state is very interesting and one of the major concerns about this title. They say something like that feeling you get from playing Stellaris. And of course, one of the major concerns with Star Trek Infinite is that it is basically a clone of Stellaris. If you have made it this far into the video, please consider liking, commenting and subscribing if you're new here. Both me and Tom really appreciate it. As a small niche channel, it's amazing when we grow and we notice every subscriber. So thank you and do consider it. Stellaris is of course an awesome game. It's not one I've played for many years. I did put around 100 hours into it back in the day, but once again with Paradox titles, they kept changing things so much that every time I logged back in, it felt like a completely different game. The DLCs got out of control and you just feel like you're never playing the same version that everyone else is playing. I have to complete. If I buy a game, I have to have all the expansions. It's just the way I am. And with Paradox, I just can't keep up with that sometimes. So while there is nothing wrong with having Stellaris as the genesis of this game, Star Trek is a big enough IP that it has to feel like a game in itself. There is also a very popular Star Trek mod for Stellaris called New Horizons, and Star Trek Infinite has to try and rise above this. The music in that title and that modification is actually amazing. So for me, a twofold problem with this game. It has to try and surpass the classics like Birth of the Federation and Armada, while also trying to shake off and do something different than Stellaris. Look, like I said, Stellaris is a great title, but we have a Star Trek modification for that game. This one has to stand on its own 2 feet. The vision for the game also looks like it's trying to recapture much of the classic Trek that we love, especially TNG. I'm going to be honest here, and I'm not going to go into the reasons why, because, there are many controversial reasons. I'm not a fan of new Trek. I really have struggled to get into it, and quite honestly, the best Star Trek I've seen in years comes from the Orville TV series. In fact, the developers state that they had to base this on the established series of the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine and Voyager because they could not clash with the ongoing Discovery and Picard storylines at the time. This is music to my ears. So the background of the game gets a huge thumbs up from me, and I'm very excited to play a strategy game based in one of the best eras of Trek. Now, of course, I love the classic Captain Kirk era, but I'm very happy to play a TNG-styled game. The game enables you to play as one of 4 factions. They are the United Federation of Planets, the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Star Empire, and the Cardassian Union. I think these are natural choices for the era, and they're gonna have very different playstyles. Recently, due to Klingon Academy, I've been on a real Klingon buzz, playing as Bird of Prey, cloaking and taking down my enemies in Klingon Academy and Bridge Commander is a huge amount of fun, and to be honest, I may start my first game as the Klingon Empire and attempt to be hyper aggressive. Excitingly, there will be a number of support powers in the game, and they will take the form of major powers such as the Ferengi, and then a number of minor powers. This really helps to immerse you in the Star Trek universe. Exploration will actually play a huge part in the game, as will the ability to spy on your enemies, and this is awesome because it does bring back memories of Birth of the Federation, where the spying played a huge role. One of the exciting mechanisms within the game is the ability to look at the balance of power of all 4 major players. This will inform your decisions on who you befriend and who you decide to attack. The AI will also take and avail of this system. I think this system is a really good way of portraying the delicate political climate of the TNG era. The other interesting mechanism within the game is galactic tension, so the longer that war goes on, the more instability and uncertainty a major power will face. If you are too aggressive, your society itself may actually crumble. It certainly will be interesting in my first playthrough, probably as the Klingon Empire, to see if this mechanic affects my all-out war approach. I was taking a look through the artwork today for each of the different major powers, and I think it's really impressive how they've captured that classic Trek feel within their artwork. It's going to be very important for me that each major power feels different. If I'm playing the Klingon Empire, I hopefully have a completely different experience than if I choose the Federation. The amount of major power portraits should also give some excellent flavour and variety to the game. To me, the UI looks functional, but also reminds me a lot of Stellaris, and this is something Birth of the Federation did really well back in the day. It was like playing a Star Trek game through the TNG LCAR system, and that was really cool. It would have been awesome if they took this approach, however, I think the sound effects will also be important when clicking through the UI. IGN described it as playing by spreadsheet, but I don't think this is really a problem for us strategy gamers. I mean, have they played Rule the Waves 3? That basically is a spreadsheet. So look, overall I'm very excited about this title. When do we get Star Trek strategy games anymore? Paradox is a very strong publisher, and the Star Trek IP is something exciting in their hands, but I have moved away from their titles over the years due to their aggressive DLC policy. Also, the lack of gameplay videos out there is a little bit concerning so close to release, but overall I do think this will be a quality title. Whether it captures that classic Birth of the Federation feel is yet to be seen, and can it differentiate itself enough from Stellaris to stand alone and do the Star Trek IP proud? If it can do both these things, it will be a wonderful title which I will sink many hours into. Like I said, I'm on the move next week, so hopefully it will work on Steam Deck and I can give you my thoughts immediately. I did reach out to Paradox for a review key, but of course nothing has come back yet. If you're out there, Paradox, if you see this video, consider us. We'd love to cover this as Star Trek enthusiasts. So there we go, LT Gamers, a brand new Star Trek game is on the horizon. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Will you be picking this up? And what is your hope and aspirations for this title? Also, it would be great to know what coverage you would like to see from us, playthroughs, reviews, what style of content would you like us to make on this game. As always, I've been Luke from LT Gaming, and I'll catch you on the next one.